Hey, folks, this is Hal Shurtleff with the Camp Constitution Report. This program can be heard or viewed on our YouTube channel, a Podomatic page, as well as Amazon, iHeart, Spotify, and probably half a dozen other platforms. And we urge you to subscribe to all those that you access this program on. And it's been a little while since we've done a show, mainly because I've got our Australian Shepherd delivered 9 puppies, and they're getting big, and they're taking up a lot of our time to take care of them, and we're finding homes for them. Anyway, tomorrow is election day in the United States. And one of the things that when we watch debates, very few people make reference to the U.S. Constitution during the debates. And that it was the same way pretty much of this election cycle. And that not only goes for major candidates for the presidency, but also House and senators, etc. So I thought it was important to break down the job description of the president and vice president because you think that they just have unlimited powers. And I like what a number of years ago when Ron Paul was running for the presidency, he was interviewed by somebody, I can't remember who it was, and he asked the interviewer, "Do you know who the president of Switzerland is?" Now, I guess they have a parliamentary system, and the president in many of these countries that has a parliamentary system is basically a figurehead. And the reporter said, no. He said, well, he said, that's the way the president of the United States should be. In other words, it shouldn't be the most important person in the whole wide world. That was never the intention of that particular job. Uh, and it's one of the things I have to point out, though. Uh, Harris is promising to to give people money or stuff. In the case of new homeowners, $25,000, black businessmen, another thousands of dollars in unforgivable loan or forgivable loans, et cetera, et cetera. Trump, on the other hand, is saying, I'm not going to take your money. I'm not going to take your no tips on taxes, no tips on overtime. And yeah, maybe we can just repeal the income tax altogether. So one is what we call a positive force, which doesn't mean it's not a positive generally you think is a good thing. But in this case, the government is doing something for you. They're taking something from other people and giving it to you. Where the other side is saying, we're not going to take stuff from you, from anyone. That's considered, in other words, we're going to leave you alone. But I wrote an article on the subject, and I'm going to read most of it to you. I take stuff right out of the Constitution, but first I mentioned H.L. Mencken. He said that elections are nothing more than auctions for future stolen goods. I love that. Of course, it's a lot more today than maybe back then, but he said that back, I think, in the early 1920s. In many respects, he's correct that auctions are nothing more than future auctions for future stolen goods, or sometimes direct cash. That maxim rings true by looking at the promises that a certain candidate running for president of the United States has made. The candidate promises first-time homeowners a cool 25 grand. While this candidate wasn't polling too high among black men, the candidate promised black men forgivable business loans and to make recreational marijuana legal so they could set up pot shops with the promised funds. It wasn't too long ago that the same candidate sent several thousand black men to jail for smoking marijuana. The candidate's latest promise increased the federal minimum wage up to $15 per hour. Her self-loathing running mate, who once apologized for his race, of course, this is Waltz, let Minneapolis burn while he and his wife enjoyed the smell of burning rubber, signed bills into law that allowed killing babies that survived an abortion. And let me point out that while it may be rare, it happens. And I think in his state, it happened up to 2 to 5 times in the last year or so. And placing sanitary napkins in boys' bathrooms. Now, he passed a bill that placed sanitary napkins in all bathrooms, including boys' bathrooms. Um, Told people he was in combat when he wasn't, and bugged out of his National Guard unit shortly before it was deployed. Uh, said that he wants to abolish the electoral college. Now, he can't do that. You need to have an amendment of the Constitution to do that. But that's another topic. But what does that pesky U.S. Constitution, the one that all federal? Let me get back to the bugging out. He was a senior NCO. He was an E8. That's a very experienced position. And while he had the right to retire, he left a gap there. It's hard to fill a role like that. If he was an E4, E5, E2, E3, a little bit easier. But he's a senior NCO in this artillery unit, and he decided not to retire before the unit was deployed. And then he went around telling people he was in war when he wasn't. Okay. Um, all right. So to begin, presidents have no power to give money to first-time homeowners and black men, or for that matter, any men. Both the president and Congress have no constitutional authority to set up minimum wages, and vice presidents have no authority to abolish electoral college. That has to be done by an amendment to the Constitution. While presidents and vice presidents have plenty of political clout, it is up to Congress and the states when it comes to the amending process. So, yeah, the vice president and president can lobby in a bully pulpit, but they have no direct influence on that position. The power and duties of the president and vice president of the United States are clearly spelled out in the U.S. Constitution. And being the leader of the free world, or what's left of it, isn't one of them. Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution, where the powers and duties of the president are found. Here they are. Not that many, folks. Commander-in-Chief of the Army, Navy, and of the militia of the several states when called into actual service. That would be actual federal service, not state service. So if there's a state issue they're called out, president has no say. Grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States, except in the case of impeachment. Make treaties with the advice and consent of 2/3 of the Senate present. Nominate and with the advice and consent of the Senate, appoint ambassadors, other public ministers and consuls, judges of the Supreme Court, and all other officers of the United States. This would be also military officers. Fill vacancies that may happen during the recess of the Senate by granting commissions, which shall expire at the end of their next session. Give a State of the Union address. And by the way, this can be done once a year. It could be done once. It could be done every month. It doesn't say, but the tradition is now January of every year. On extraordinary occasions, convene both houses or either of them. Receive ambassadors and other public ministers. Take care that the laws are faithfully executed. That, I think, is the most important part. And in Article 1, Section 7, a president must approve every order or vote passed by Congress. If disapproved, vetoed, it can be overturned by a 2/3 vote of Congress. The duties of a vice president are to be the president of the Senate and vote if there is a tie, Article 1, Section 3. And in the 25th Amendment, Section 4, the vice president, along with the majority of cabinet members, transmits to Congress that the president isn't able to perform his duties. And in Article 2, Section 2, Paragraph 5, assume the office of the president when the president is removed, dies, or is unable to discharge his duties. That's pretty much it. In fact, initially, the vice president would actually sit and run the session of the Senate. And at some point, and I don't know when, I've done some research, I couldn't exactly tell when. The only time you'll see a vice president in the Senate is to vote if there's a tie, or when the election is certified, the president's election is certified. The vice president usually oversees that event. So unfortunately, over the years, the executive branch has become an unconstitutional entity from issuing executive orders that have the force of law to its numerous alphabet soup departments that run roughshod over the states, issuing administrative laws with its own enforcement arms, to sending our military all over the world to fight in undeclared wars, to give billions of dollars in foreign aid to friends and foes alike. Let's hope that the majority of the voters prove another maxim attributed to H.L. Mencken wrong on November 5th. Nobody ever went broke underestimating the intelligence of the American people. And we always offer a free pocket copy of the U.S. Constitution, and I'll make that offer too in this program. Just email me. You can go right to our website where there's a little place you can leave a message, or you can go right to my email. It's campconstitution1@gmail.com, and that one is the digit 1. If you can see it, I don't know if you can see it on your screen or not. You should be able to right here. Here we go. And just give me your address, mailing address, and I will send you this little pocket copy, compliments of Camp Constitution. So in about a half hour, there'll be a nationwide prayer. Everyone, all believers, will pray for the election tomorrow, and I'm going to be one of them. So thank you for watching or listening. You've been watching and listening to Camp Constitution Report with your host, Hal Shurtleff. And until next time, may God richly bless you, and may God bless the United States. Amen.